Serious. Parents of sociopaths, psychopaths, or people who have done terrible things. How do you feel about your offspring? There was a post a while ago from a guy who had a son that fit this description. His story was incredibly sad and very heartfelt. Going to see if I can find it. When I opened this thread, I was expecting this story to show up eventually. Absolutely horrifying. That's completely wrenching. I don't even know how to react. The situation is so extreme and tragic. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm in this halfway shocked, disbelieving expression. What I feel is that he's an AOL, but I tell him it's a condition, because I don't want to hurt his feelings. Would his feelings really be hurt if you told him otherwise? I really hate that. Basically, you're telling him it's not his fault to act bad and it's out of his control. So now next time he feels like being a dong, he won't think twice, because you've already told him it's not his fault and he's essentially thinks he's not responsible for his actions. If someone is just an AOL, telling them it is a condition condones their AOLery. My son robbed a convenience store when he was 20 years old. I love him, but he has made many ill decisions in his life. We do not talk much at all. It'll probably be lost in the comments, but I've been diagnosed by multiple counselors as severely sociopathic. I don't have the time to type anything out, but feel free to message me or just reply to this and I'll answer anything you ask. Sociopath stepping in to say hello. I despise psychopaths and would be extremely disappointed if my child was one. Psychopaths just lack so much common sense. I will likely never end up in jail, because I have enough sense to know that stabbing somebody in the face is going to get me arrested, even if I could theoretically do it. Jail ain't a place I want to go, and I'll do just about anything to avoid going. Thanks Reddit. New dad here, and now I'm scared shitless. I started writing about my sociopathic sister-in-law, and then my boyfriend reminded me that somehow she might see this and identify me by my username. She's at evil. I got 3 top posts deep. That's it. I'm done. This is just too much. Going to go check on my baby daughter and go to bed. Not a parent, but my parents treat me like a sociopath. As far as I'm aware, I'm a pretty normal 19-year-old with a small ego problem that's really just covering up some self-esteem issues, but everyone has something like that. My parents act like I owe them the world. They expect me to choose their best interests over mine every time, then punish me when I don't. I get yelled at for not being a part of the family if I go out too much, but as soon as I stop going out as much, it's like you're attached to that damn computer. Why don't you go do something with your life? I'm really getting sick of it and just need to find out if it's them who are wrong and not me, because I don't know. I can't tell. For all I know, I'm a piece of it who is a selfish AOL that would kill his parents for $4.40 and a piece of gum. There are so many resources to help these parents, but I see a lot not wanting help for their children. I work with emotional handicapped children ages 10-16. They kill family pets and join gangs. I have community resources with free doctors and therapy. The parents just don't get help. I don't understand. The it's is free. Your child is biting teachers and throwing chairs in my classroom and you say, I never thought of getting help. I will call tomorrow. Then nothing. I hope someone can answer my question. I am about burned out helping these children. Not my son, but one of my best friends I have known for 17 years, now 23, has the joint worst ADHD records in Scotland. By the age of 17 he was suspended from high school 11 times, then expelled. He was then expelled from a bad boys school. He has been charged 60 times for some serious it, and absolutely every charge has happened whilst drunk. He has been declared psychopathic when under the influence. He is a really nice guy, sober, and a loving mom and sister, and a 3-legged dog called Ben. It's very frustrating knowing him. Obviously he has a destructive personality, and doesn't have a lot of friends. Natural fell into the underworld drug dealing, and doing robberies. I am literally the only person on the planet who can calm him down, and get him to focus on something. I have tried getting him back involved with our group of friends when he seems to have his life in check, but goes and does things like turn up drunk at midday on a Saturday when we were just going to be playing Xbox and watching soccer and not be drinking until 6. So he makes an arse of himself, leaves the house when he says he's going to the toilet. Don't see him for a few months again. Hard work. I am curious. Is there a post about when these tables are turned? Such as kids of parents who do awful things like this? I don't know. We would have to ask my parents. I think they would say I am a good son, not a great son, because I didn't give in to the small-town white bread Methodist ideology they wanted for their boy. I married someone they didn't approve of. I'm sure they don't approve of how I raise my children. They would still say I am a good son. Think about that for a second. They don't approve of me, my life, or my choices, but they would still claim I am a good son. I was raised with that level of denial floating around me constantly. I learned early to devalue truth and play the role of the son they wanted. From there it was easy to be different people everywhere I went. School had a face. My grandparents' house had a face. My sister had a face. Everywhere I went there was a face for me to wear. Someone new to be. God forbid the facade slipped even a little. My family doesn't like to acknowledge what they don't understand or accept. More than once I was shown that I couldn't be me and I had to be these masks. So eventually I lost myself in the game. Between the ages of about 3 and 5 is when most of my indoctrination to being a sociopath took place. After that I kind of began to enjoy it. If I wasn't real, then nobody was real either. I stopped seeing them as human. No one I met was really human. I humanized only myself. Set myself above everything. Other people became objects in my hands. Nothing more than playthings. They were a fun new toy that I learned to manipulate and control. I've never killed anyone, but I'm not adverse to it. I've never committed major crime. Only because I've never really had a good opportunity. Honestly, that's what being a sociopath is in the day-to-day. I don't care about you. You're not real to me. I can count on one hand the number of people who are real to me without them being in my physical presence. Most people just kind of fade away. If that makes any sense to you. I am very focused on the now, even though I hate that stupid buzzword. We live in the moment most of the time, but we can track our long cons with uncanny accuracy. And I don't know how it is for others, but I can absorb amazing amounts of small random facts. I can remember every level to a video game I haven't played in 5 years, but I have to sit for a couple minutes to remember my daughter's birthdays. It's interesting, being me. I'll even answer questions if you like. I am a functional sociopath. Reddit. Ask me anything. I think my aunt was married to a pedophile, and he was very much a sociopath. They moved to town when I was 10. His name was Gary. He was really fun and knew all sorts of cool magic tricks. He would always ask if I wanted to watch cartoons or movies with him when the family would get together. He would turn on the TV and lay on the bed really close to me and would keep tickling me. My mom wasn't an idiot. She would keep coming to check on me. As time went on, the whole family turned against him. He got inside my aunt's head, and she was convinced that we couldn't stand to see her happy. He was really mean to her son. When her son and I were older, he told me more about Gary. He said that there were times he really scared some of his girlfriends. He had a girlfriend, and she said that she didn't want to come over anymore, because Gary would always corner her and just stare her down. He did the same to another girl that he dated later. My aunt cut out the entire family. They divorced a few years ago, and now she comes around, but she's fricked up in the head. Maybe you guys can give my brother who uses this profile some word of advice. He's 18, has juice, and a black girl who is indeed a freaking sociopath, manipulating people wherever she, bulleting every freaking living mom and ever encountered. She's taking my brother from me, and soon I'm afraid she will murder him. When my mother was a child, she had a babysitter that was a real sadist. When he would watch her and her siblings, he whipped my uncle with a whip with rocks tied to the ends. He used to hold my mother and her little sister over a bridge by their legs, and tell them if they screamed or cried he would drop them when they didn't know how to swim. It all finally stopped for them when he was arrested for microwaving his own child and was sent to prison. As a child who came from parents who had no business having kids, all I want to say is that you shouldn't have a kid just to have a kid. You need to have something you want to pass down to him or her, some sort of purpose to live. I hate it when people have kids just because they want kids. I created this account as a throwaway to share my story. My father is a genuine sociopath. Like a Patrick Bateman type guy. He likes to play games with people, literally push them emotionally as far as he can, and then reel them back with his charming manner. The only thing he cares for is money and status. Everyone in his life is just there to feed his self-perception. Throughout my life, I've watched him use people for his personal gain. As a female, I can say I have a certain loathing towards my gender as a result of all the women that would flock to him. As if he was something to marvel, he would use them for an ego boost, cheat on them. Yet they'd always hang around, because he would turn on the charm and feed them hope. Unfortunately, my mother was one of these women to him. She got caught up in his games and lost herself for many years. He managed to chisel her self-worth away, and to this day she is half the person she should be. As a child, I didn't really get a choice. My love for him was unconditional, because he was my father. However, over the years a degree of insecurity and self-loathing accumulates due to his constant dismissal of that love. Growing up he put me in positions that I should never have been put in as a child. He'd do this just to raise the stakes of his game, just to watch me squirm. He'd lie about everything, and it was so easy for him too. He was so elaborate and detailed that you'd be a fool not to believe him. He was genuinely so good. He could make you believe the sky wasn't blue. He'd also fake emotions, again so well. If he knew you were close to being through with him, that he'd pushed you too far, he would turn on the tears and the adoring speech, and you want to believe it, so you do. Now as an adult, having learned from years of torment, I can call him out for his lies and see him as the despicable human being he is. I've reached that place where I recognize I'm not dealing with a person, but an animal. But to get to that place of understand is the hardest journey. It's taken me 21 years to finally get to a good place with everything he's done. And to be honest, in a sick way it's because I know I beat him at his own game. I no longer have any feelings towards him and he genuinely cannot hurt me because of this. I know nothing about him, which is the scariest thing. It would not surprise me if one day it was discovered he was some serial killer. The degree to which that would not surprise me is really actually alarming. I would not wish anyone to experience the ways of a sociopath. They damage lives and feel no empathy towards their victims. For those who are dealing with such people, all I can say is get out while you can, because it becomes a sick never-ending cycle. I wonder what happened to that guy whose kid molested the family dog. I'm not the parent, but I'm the kid. I feel like I'm different. Death doesn't scare me. Killing someone doesn't scare me. I've had moments whenever I go trap shooting I think in my mind, I could turn around, put a shell in my father, my mother, my sister, take the keys and drive away. But the one person I can't seem to imagine myself killing is my brother. He's the only person I can relate to. I would honestly take a bullet for him. That doesn't seem like much when you don't care about death. But then again, I wouldn't try to stop someone from shooting someone else, because it's not my problem. Why should I care? I enjoy killing animals. The first time I went hunting, I shot a jackrabbit's foot off with my last bullet, so I ran up to it and broke its neck. That doesn't bother me. I don't feel guilt for my actions. I grew up in a pretty strict religion and I've broken most of the rules, and I don't really give a frick. Sometimes before school I get a thought in my head that tells me to take my dad's guns from his safe and see what happens if I just kill a few kids. I don't cut myself. I'm not depressed. My family is financially set. I don't hate life. I do okay in school. I'm not socially awkward. I just keep all this in my mind. I want to know what it feels like to be stabbed and shot. I like to see fear in people's faces, and I feel like the best way is with a gun pointed at them or someone they care about. The only drug I've done is weed, and I don't care to go further. My friend offered me shrooms the other day and I just said no thank you. I don't know how to explain the way I feel or what I imagine, but I just feel like I'm different from everyone around me. And I may not be scared of death, but what is to come after? Other than that, I don't know what to do. This is my best guess of why I feel the way I do. I felt different ever since I was 10. I watched my friend's brother commit suicide. I just stood there watching him bleed. I didn't feel obligated to stop him from his choice. I was waiting for my friend to get home, so I walked to his house to wait for him. Walked into the kitchen and his brother was there. He told me watch over my brother for me. I just stood there and nodded. After watching him for a couple of seconds, he slumped over, pale as can be, and stopped breathing. I stayed for a few more seconds and then I felt an overwhelming feeling of, nothing. I felt numb. I just walked out of the house and went home. I haven't told anyone what I witnessed. Why should I? It won't change anything. At the funeral I felt the same feeling of nothing. My friend and I became distant after he started doing hardcore drugs, and I haven't seen his parents at church in a while. But either of those things affect me, and even if I did do something about it, what would it do? Not really sure if relevant, but just wanted to share. Thank you? Your spawn. Throw away. For obvious reasons, I have been called a sociopath and a narcissist by a number of people in my life. I personally do not feel as though I fit the archetype for a sociopath. However, there are some significant consistencies for which I might fit the bill. One thing I have specifically noticed recently is that most people are inherently afraid of reprimanding me or giving me explicit orders. I am by no means intimidating, and have absolutely no history of rage or violent episodes. I've never even been in a real physical altercation in my life. I would say that I am intelligent, and often bored with the trivial aspects of life. I am a Division I collegiate athlete at a pretty well-renowned institution both academically and athletically. I only say this to offer an example of what has been previously stated. Other people who participate in the sport have said on numerous occasions that coaches and authority figures seem to never reprimand me or yell at me for something that may have elicited this response in someone else. Just noticing it now, I guess I really have used this to my advantage through the years. I would also say that I am a manipulative person. I find it interesting to tailor what I say to each person so that they trust me enough to believe what I am telling them. I am by no means a pathological liar. However, I choose what I say to certain people very carefully. This has gotten me into some trouble as of late, as people have caught on to my continued pitting one against the other schemes. I do them only for my enjoyment, as I am excited by one's dislike for another, even if I don't harbor these same feelings. Also, I often find myself saying pretty terrible things about others purely for the sake of saying them. I like to see how others will react. I have high aspirations for myself, and have never been in trouble with the law. Sometimes I feel the only reason this is true is because of the potential adverse effects this would have on my future life, or I would have done something worthy of an arrest. I have absolutely no desire to kill or physically hurt someone, and I have never hurt animals or even know about doing so. On the other hand, I find myself intrigued in creating elaborate schemes in my head to ruin X's life in one way or another. I often find myself daydreaming about these schemes, though I ultimately decide against them, not for the sake of the other person, but myself. I came from a pretty abusive home life, though money wasn't a huge issue, and my mother and siblings are extremely loving and caring. My father is a drug-addicted and alcoholic abuser who used me, the eldest son, as his main outlet. Most of the abuse was mental, though physical was also part of the situation. Parents eventually got divorced, and my relationship with my family minus my father is a very good one. It has also been said that I harbor extreme influence over my family, specifically my mother, who also tries to not upset me in any way. Another person of higher authority. I do feel as though I harbor some feelings of empathy, though not as much as others. I wouldn't ever think about physically harming another person or animal, though I am very intrigued by the quest for power and control. I have seen a therapist, who I am relatively sure tested me for what is generally accepted as psychopathy, though the results were inconclusive. Again, this could have just been a product of me knowing what to say and how to say it, though I'll never truly know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.